was Neal Armstrong, Chapter 10, Moonwalk. Neal and Buzz could only spend 2.5 hours on the moon because of the limited supply of oxygen in their tanks. Because Neal was commander of the mission, NASA awarded him the honor of stepping onto the moon first. Carefully, Neal climbed down the ladder. He had given much thought as to what he'd say. After all, his words would be heard all over the world. Neal's message was, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." But as Neal set foot on the moon, 450 million people listening heard him said, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Possibly Neal forgot the word A, or else a poor sound from the moon was responsible for cutting out the one little word. Whatever the exact words, their meaning was clear. It was indeed a landmark event in the history of the world. Neal rigged a TV camera so viewers on Earth could watch the two men in their bulky spacesuits walking where no human being had ever been before. The suits protected them from both the extreme heat and extreme cold of the moon. So the suit, the very top, you have the emergency oxygen supply in the helmet. The front part was the visor. Off to the side on the back, you have the emergency life support system. On the chest, you have the life support system control unit. On the wrist was the pressure relief valve. In the middle, below the life support, you had the temperature control gauge. Obviously, gloves on the hand. The pressure gauge was on the right hand over there. The rock sample pocket. Ooh, I'd like pockets like that. Glass fiber cloth and lunar boots. The astronauts collected moon rocks and took photographs and planted an American flag. Wires made the flag look as if it was flying. Otherwise, it would have hung limp. There's no wind on the moon. They also left a plaque. It said, "Here, men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. We come in peace for all mankind." Wherever they walked, they left footprints in the moon dust. These footprints are still here today. Again, because there's no wind on the moon. The landscape was basically brown and gray. It was very dark out. Still, Neal thought the moon was beautiful. "Isn't that something? Magnificent sight down here," Neal said to Buzz. Both of them wished they could have stayed longer. While Buzz and Neal were taking their tour of the moon, Mike had orbited around it 14 times. Each time Mike was on the side of the moon that didn't face Earth, he lost communication with NASA. During that time, if a problem arose, there was no way for him to tell NASA about it. Even so, Mike later described his time alone in space as being very peaceful. As for Neal and Buzz, everything depended on the Eagles blasting off perfectly from the moon's surface. Fortunately, it did. After Neal and Buzz reconnected with Columbia, they climbed back into the cabin with Mike. Then the Eagle was set adrift to orbit the moon. It had done its job. There was no need for it anymore. And besides, it couldn't be brought back to Earth. It would have burned up, hitting the atmosphere. The Eagle eventually crashed into the moon. Once Mike fired the rockets that propelled Columbia away from the moon's gravity, the Apollo 11 crewmen were on their way home.